use depending on weather and situation. It's a great way to develop the riverfront in a in a sustainable way that's very attractive to a great cross section of our community. So I like the way it's being developed personally.
I also am a cyclist, and I may have been riding there that evening, but I hope that I would have made myself, and I'm a road cyclist, so I would have been one of the guys coming up behind him. I hope I would have made myself real obvious, and I try real hard to be not rude to the people who walk along there. It's kind of, in my view, it's kind of an issue that is passed. We've done that. We're done with that, and we're using it for cyclists and pedestrians. And while it may not be a perfect mixed use, I think it works pretty well. And I guess my view is a lot of people use it for both cycling and walking. And I'm sure if you could pick a time any time when there's not much, it doesn't appear to be much use. But I've been there quite a bit. There's a lot of people out there.
I live really close to an access on the river trail. I have 7 grandkids, and 6 of them are still in Grand Junction, and 3 of my 4 kids, and we use the trail all the time. You know, we have our specific little area because 3-year-olds don't walk too far, but I see a lot of traffic constantly. And even in the years when my kids were younger, one of the annual class trips, and I think all 4 of them did the same thing, we took the school bus out to Corn Lake, and the kids walked all around the lake and took pictures and enjoyed the wildlife. And so I do think it's really seeing a lot of activity, and I like the connectivity and the multi-use for the different types of transportation that people enjoy.
I think the question is it the panacea? And I would answer that by saying no, it's not the panacea. I think in today's world, it's somewhat of a given that people that have active lifestyles that are attracted to a community expect something like that. And I'm one of the individuals that's usually at the side of the trail because I seem to get a goat head in my tire every time I go down there. So, but I don't think it's a panacea. I think it's almost a given today that people expect in a community that promotes an active lifestyle.
And Tom, I can assure you, you'd hear me coming from a half mile away because of the wheezing when I'm on my bicycle. So, any other questions? Because I've got one that I want to ask, and I think this is going to be relevant to the Measure 2B. And I think we're going to start with Dennis and go this way. And that is, in the past, when the voters of Grand Junction have rejected tax initiatives like this, specifically the safety center, Randy West plan that included 4 or 5 fire stations and stuff like that, that the city council then chose to go around the will of the voters and use certificates of participation to fund that project. And so the question I'm going to pose to you is, if referendum 2B fails at the polls, would you be in favor of using COPs to finance that road project? And we're going to start with you, Dennis.
I think COPs in general are a travesty. I think most people know what they are. It's a subterfuge around the will of the people. The Tabor says, "Thou shalt not have debt without voter approval." These COPs are just debt, and they've convinced the Court of Appeals that putting one sentence in the document makes it not a debt. It's just crazy thinking. When in 2010, when both the city and the county were involved in considering these, I was one of the few people speaking up and saying, we shouldn't be doing this. We should not be putting people in debt without an election. And we had a conservative set of county commissioners, and we had a relatively conservative city council, yet they paid no heed. And they went ahead and did it anyway, and we're still paying off those decisions. Now, I wasn't opposed to the police station or any of the other projects the city had.
It's dangerous to give blanket no's or yeses to that type of question. Each project needs to be weighed on its merits, and there are going to be cases for and against. Sometimes there are big safety issues that require a project to move forward, even if it is against the will of an electorate that may or separate issues on their merits and give them an up or down vote, whether it's at the council level, in a committee level, or whether it's at, the voter level. So there's no blanket yes or no to that.
I guess I differ a little from Chris there. I would put a blanket no on it. I think if it is defeated, I think the obligation of city council and the city is to find out why was it defeated. Was it defeated because of that the citizens did not want us to go into debt? Is it because they did not want us to use the excess Tabor funds? Is it because that wasn't their priority in their minds? I think we have an obligation at that point to find out exactly why they voted the way they did.
Gosh, I can almost say ditto. I think if it's defeated, that we do have to go back to work and figure out why it was defeated. What do the citizens see? What priorities maybe have we missed? I mean, I think we need to really dig in and dig our heels in and start doing our homework and revisit it. I don't think you just try to get around the voters with a COP. I do think we really need to spend some time finding out priorities and organizing those and going from that direction.
Anybody else with a question? Excuse me. Okay, we'll move to closing statements at this time. And since you went first with the opening statement, we'll start at the other end. And Chris, you go first with the closing statements. And again, you got 2 minutes.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight, putting forth some very thoughtful questions, and hopefully we've given you some thoughtful responses. I want to say I hate being painted into terms of liberal, spend all, tax everything. That's not who I am, never have been, never will be. I've been responsible for budgets in excess of $500 million, both CapEx and OpEx. I understand how to manage to a budget and to do it with an eye towards return on investment. And prioritizing projects is the key to that. It's also about bringing people to the table with differing viewpoints and coming to consensus about what makes sense, and everybody giving a little bit so that we are constantly moving forward. That said, I've offered some things that I would like to try to accomplish in a 4-year elected term. My opponent has never offered anything positive about what he's going to do. He talks about what he's not going to do. I want to talk about what I want to do. We need to be a 10 gigabit broadband city very quickly. If we want to be competitive in a 21st century economy, we need to have a 21st century infrastructure to make that happen. It's not going to happen if we're depending on just private enterprise, whether it's Charter Communications, CenturyLink, or any wireless provider that may or may not come out of the horizon. Just depending on the private sector to make that happen, it's not going to work. Municipality after municipality of our size has proven that over the last decade. Those that have gotten out of Senate Bill 5192, whatever the number was, that have entered into private or public partnerships where put infrastructure in, have seen the results of that investment play out. We need to be part of that trend. And putting infrastructure in place to help attract those businesses here is a smart use of taxpayer money. And we can do it in a programmatic way that offers abilities for companies to relocate here.
The election between my opponent and I gives people a very clear choice between someone who understands that limited government is good for a society and good for economy, and someone who believes the government should do just about everything. And while I'm being accused of not being in favor of anything, I would point out I'm in favor of the taxpayers retaining their money. I'm in favor of the taxpayers making decisions about debt. I'm in favor of the taxpayers coming to open meetings, speaking what they think, and I'm in favor of the council listening to what the people have to say. And I'm in favor of much more listening going on and not quite so much talking. It's easy when you're a liberal to say, I'm in favor of everything. And my opponent, because he's not in favor of everything, is a negative guy. Well, I don't think I'm a negative guy. I think I'm bringing a lot of positive new ideas to this debate, and I think that I'm going to ask people to think about, you know, things that they would not normally think about. I've been described as a critical thinker and an innovative thinker. And I think that's true. I bring ideas to the table that don't come from the staff. I bring ideas to the table that perhaps other councilmen don't think of. And I think I've proven that as I've acted as a citizen and attending meetings and speaking occasionally when I'm given an opportunity. And I think that input has been very positive because it has changed things that needed to be changed along the way. And I thank everybody for coming tonight, and I thank Freedom Colorado for inviting us.
Well, I want to say thank you also. It was very informative, and I appreciated all your questions, and it was a pleasure to be here. I have lived in Grand Junction since 1977, and I think Grand Junction is a fantastic place. I mean, I just love living here. I can't imagine living anywhere else. I think that if we really start working hard on building our economy and working hard on our job situation, we can create a community that in the long term can sustain itself. Our children, our grandchildren, the future generations can stay in Grand Junction, and they can work and live and play here. You know, they can afford to buy a home and enjoy a lot of the amenities that we enjoy today if we start planning for them now. I would work really hard with the city to make sure that we remain fiscally responsible. I really would make a strong effort on supporting our local businesses that exist, as well as trying to attract new ones. I'm very interested in the existing ones as well. And I have a great deal of input, I think, that would be really valuable in managing the growth wisely in Grand Junction, managing it in such a way that we protect our community and work wisely with the city and city council, paying attention to the comprehensive plan that's coming up for review this year. I think if you agree with me on a lot of those issues, I hope you vote for me, and we can work really strongly and build a better Grand Junction and a future Grand Junction together. Thank you.
Again, thank you for having us this evening. I think everybody has said the same thing in the sense that I love this community. I've been around it 30 years, but I've also lived through the pain of watching it go through two very significant boom and bust cycles. One cycle allowed me to grow a business wonderfully and sell it to a much bigger business. One cost me to lose a business, unfortunately. And now I get a chance to work with students every day, and usually seniors, at a collegiate level, and I get to the joy of watching them learn and watching them grow, but I also get the pain of watching them say, Rick, we've tried everything and we can't stay in this community and we've got to leave. We've got to, the vision that I talk about when I have talked at other forums is we need to put in these next few years a foundation in place that will allow this community to diversify itself and to have a solid economic base to grow for a long period of time. And we have got to get out of this boom and bust where we depend on one industry. It's great to have the energy industry. It's great to have minerals. It's great to have an agricultural business. But we need light manufacturing. We need technology. We have areas of this community that are lacking that we need to get after. And the city can't invest in all those, but we certainly can provide some research tools, some encouragement tools, some taxation, potential benefits to people starting businesses and growing business here. And I think we've got to turn over every single one of those stones and get on that track as fast as we can.
Thank you one and all for your questions. I have one more announcement, and that is, you know, normally here April, May, we have our Freedom Festival, Colorado does, and that will be coming up this April 18th. We're in the process of putting together our speakers and the event program, so keep your eyes open. I can promise it will be another exciting event. If you attended last year's, you saw Derek Wilburn, who currently is running for the vice chairmanship of the Colorado Republican Party, and that vote takes place this weekend over in Denver. There's a contested race for chairman and vice chairman, and I think it's going to be an interesting weekend for all of the Republicans out there in the world. So thank you for all for coming tonight. Thank you. I can't, again, express how appreciative we are of you folks taking that giant step and putting yourself out in public. It's one of the most amazing things I think of all the time, that the courage it takes to stand in front of your fellow citizens and ask for their vote. So thank you for doing this, and good luck in the election.